Hi there, and welcome to Season 3 of the Humans and AI podcast. In this podcast, we dive into the real-life stories of the top leaders and entrepreneurs within the artificial intelligence, high-performance computing and data center space. These people truly are at the top of their game. We've got honest and authentic conversations with our guests. We're going to chat about their career journeys, the highs and the lows, and even the lessons they've learned from their mistakes, and the victories they've celebrated along the way. It's all about sharing their experience and knowledge. We talk about the company they're currently in and how they see the future of the space. So if you're looking for practical advice from people who have walked the same path, or just a little inspiration, you're in the right place. We're going to be releasing new episodes on Thursday at 12, so make sure you stay tuned. Hi Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Very good. Great to have you on. I know we've talked about you having you on as a guest for a little while now, but for the benefit of the viewers, do you mind just introducing yourself, your role and the company you're working at?
Sure. So my name is Amanda McConnell. I am the head of HPC operations at Aligned. We are based out of North Canton, Ohio, and we are in the high performance computing AI space in the role of a cloud service provider.
Fantastic, crikey. So obviously you and I have been talking for a little while. We're going to go back now just a little bit more to the beginning of your experience and just sort of how that sort of lends itself into current role. So obviously you started out in finance, didn't you? So you able to just give a bit more of your background?
Yeah, so I actually started my career in banking with JP Morgan and Citizens Bank. I was in banking for about 5 or 6 years. And I knew that once I finished my finance degree, I wanted to leave the banking world, but it was great experience in the interim. I went from there and I actually joined my first tech company in 2018. The company's called Squirrels LLC. And I found them just on a basic, I think like Indeed or LinkedIn ad. And I thought, this company sounds really cool. Like, let's give it a look and see what's going on with them. I started with them in August, actually the day after my birthday. Oddly enough, I won't forget that start date. And when I met them, they said, hey, you're finishing up this bachelor's degree. We're starting a company that is focused in more of the building of actual product instead of the software that the other company was building. And we kind of think you'd be a good fit over there. So that's kind of how we got started and worked for a company called Squirrels Research Labs that built high performance computing accelerators. They're all FPGA based, so it was a very R&D, very ground level company that originally wound up in the cryptocurrency space because these devices are really, really good at mining crypto. Mm-hmm. Throughout the throes of COVID, we ended up standing up some data centers internally with like thousands and thousands of these miners in there. And then that company, certain assets of that were acquired by Aligned, which kind of brought us to where we are today.
Fantastic. So when you came into the company, what was your role? What did they actually bring you in to do from the start?
I was a staff accountant.
Oh, wow. Everyone needs one of those.
Yes.
So you came in as a staff accountant and then you moved into more of an operational focus role and moved into then the head of HPC.
So I had a few more steps along the way. So I became the director of finance for the first company. And then some of the company went to Aligned, I became the controller on the high performance computing side. Worked in that role for quite a while. And when the opportunity presented itself, I moved into the operations side. I had finished my MBA a few years prior, and it was kind of nice to be able to use that degree and to actually work with the people. I'd worked with the company, really a lot of the team since inception of the previous company, and had really gotten to understand the way that day-to-day operations worked. And I really was enjoying the direction that the company was going, and just to be able to take things from those cool ideas and that everybody's talking about into the execution phase was something that seemed like it would be a really good use of my skill set. So that's kind of how we wound up here.
I suppose, having that sort of finance background, accounting background, moving into the HPC space and actually being very closer to the tech side has probably given you a huge advantage because obviously, let's face it, I think the HPC world and the GPU providers are out there now. One of the things they struggle with is obviously balancing the numbers with the amount of expense and all that capital you need. So it's definitely probably giving you an advantage, I'm sure.
Yeah, actually, Ironically enough, at one point, so we have our own R&D based line in the company where we can actually build the boards like on a prototype basis. So our current CTO and I actually built some of the boards, and we were there late one evening building these boards back in the day. And he got so irritated because I said, "Oh, this is $8." He's like, "Okay, stop. Take the finance hat off for a minute." But it was a good understanding of, so when our team would come to us and say, "Hey, we need this part or this part," it was really a lot easier to say, "Okay, I understand why this part is $8, $10, whatever it is, because of the function that it provides in the board." So that was a really interesting learning experience for me, I think, to say, okay, that is a pretty critical piece, and that's why it is the way it is.
But again, it stops people from just, you know, continually spending, doesn't it, at the end of the day? It's actually putting a bit of perspective and brings you into the meetings. I think the other thing, sometimes finances or people with a finance head are quite far removed from actually the day-to-day running of the business from a tech and R&D point of view. And they're just literally, you know, I speak to engineering leaders and CTOs all the time, and they're so frustrated that they feel like they've got their hands tied behind their backs. So I imagine bringing you into the business is probably quite a unique perspective.
I think so. Yeah. I sit in an office with our CTO. Um, I'd say about 50% of the time. So it's interesting to sit in on meetings as well where we're talking about, hey, the planning and the operation side of it, but then we can go back and I can meet with our VP of finance and say, this is what this costs, and now we understand that model a little better. And he actually similarly does not sit in a traditional finance role either. So our VP of finance will sometimes sit in on those other meetings. So we're a small team, but we understand the inner workings of the business, and I think that's really been good, and I think it's going to be key to our growth.
Fantastic. And so obviously speaking of the business now today, and obviously with the changes it's gone and obviously your role, are you able to sort of give us a bit of an up-to-date view of where sort of things stand? Because obviously aligned, you've gone down the AMD route, I think. So that's obviously your route for sort of GPUs and bare metal sort of services. So able to just give us a bit more of an overview of obviously what you guys offer.
So we are standing up several data centers over the next 12 to 24 months, and they are all AMD based and set up on the Supermicro actual chassis. We are actually in the final stages of the driver development. We've developed our own DPU to go in those as well. So the interesting thing about that is that the entire solution is AMD. So the CPU, GPU, and DPU are all AMD based. And then we will offer everything from just the basic bare metal solution. And then we're going to start building up the stack as well, because we understand as we build this business up that just providing solely the bare metal solution forever is really a race to the bottom pricing wise. So we know that we have to provide additional services or we're not going to be able to sustain that value. We're just like anybody else out there that just has a server and rents just the bare metal. It's not a great permanent business solution.
That's it ultimately. I mean, like I say, the prices now of GPUs, you know, certainly on the Nvidia side, have really dropped off. You know, what was sort of $5 last year is now sort of 70 cents. Yeah, depending on what you're buying. So for H100s and what have you. But AMD probably not. I don't believe has been as affected as badly. But in terms of obviously the different services that you're going to be offering, is that already in place? Is that something you're developing? What's the sort of timeframes on that?
So we have some pretty strategic conversations ongoing right now that we are in the stages of kind of working on the paperwork to get things where we can go up the stack. We have several partners that have shown interest in building some different solutions with us to offer to our customers. And I think that you'll see that every company wants to be doing different things with AI, but some of those companies don't have their own software side of things. They don't have that tech piece. They're going to look to somebody like Aligned and our partners to say, hey, this is the problem we want to solve. What do we need to do to get there? And so I think that that's going to be a pretty key piece of it as well.
Fantastic. And in terms of obviously building this out then at the moment, obviously we work in the talent industry, so we provide a lot of, you know, people to organisations like yourselves, and you know that's sort of key because obviously your business is only going to grow and develop if you've got really good people in it. What have you done to sort of build a really good team underneath you and around you?
So one of my, I think, best things that I can say is that a lot of our team has been there since the beginning, we've built them up. We've had them learning as we've been in this R&D phase. I know I have several members of my team that will sit in on webinars. Like AMD will put them out pretty regularly. So if I look at the content of it and say, hey, you know what, this is relevant to this person on our team. Our team is so amazing in the fact that they never stop learning. They never stop asking questions. They never stop saying, well, hey, this is what I read. How does this affect the business? How has this changed? Anything that happens, they're so great about asking that. But we've also been out there talking to different people, networking, meeting with people at conferences and saying, okay, how do we build this team? Because we know it's going to expand. We know we need other talent. And who do we bring along for the ride? And I think that we're starting to answer those questions, but I think as we start to grow, we're going to identify those needs and we're going to continue to find the best people that we can in the business because you're only as good, I think, as your weakest link. So
Yeah.
finding that strong talent and having your weak link being stronger than somebody's strong link, I think is going to be pretty critical too.
It's certainly, I mean, certainly from what you've been saying, and obviously with the growth that you guys are looking to hopefully do, it's if you do have those weak links, as much as you're there to develop them, it's also they've got to want to do it. So it's about
Right.
building them up and developing those. And again, the fact that you've had all these people in the business for quite a long time, so you've built that strong sort of core of knowledge within the business. So
Yeah.
in terms of obviously, people looking at your organisation from where it's come from. I mean, you've gone through. Was it a rebrand or was it an acquisition? How did it work?
So the original company that I worked for didn't really survive COVID, like a lot of
Yep.
businesses unfortunately didn't. So what they did was Align purchased some of our assets. So they were a customer of ours originally and understood the IP and the talent that existed
Yep.
within that company and said, hey, you know what, they've got something over here. We want that. So they purchased some equipment, they purchased different pieces of the company, but not the company as a whole. So the original company as a whole went away,
Yep.
but we joined Aligned and their group in 2021, late 2021, early 2022.
Fantastic. And again, that shows the strength of the partnership. So, with Aligned and the overall mission, obviously from that growth and obviously that sort of acquiring of those assets and some of the key talent like yourself, what's the overall mission then on the business moving forward?
So we started obviously in the blockchain world. We've done some work in the zero knowledge proof space. We were pretty integral in the Filecoin space. I see us growing as a service provider. I see us being able to provide custom solutions for our customers, but also bringing that DPU. I told you we developed our own custom smart NIC. It's called the Neural Sync. So we're actually bringing that to market this year. I think that will be another part of our business. So I think we will be in the data center business because it's something that we're very good at. Our team has built hundreds and hundreds of megawatts of compute. And so I think that being something that we know how to do, combined with the talent and the growth and the learning of our team and the people that we've yet to add yet, I think that Align's going to emerge in a couple different ways, one with the product and the other with the service. So I think it'll be a really interesting 12 to 24 months for us.
Fantastic. And then when you're going to market, so with these new products and with these new services, and I know you mentioned about having strategic conversations ongoing at the moment, which I'm sure you can share in the future rather than necessarily today. What is the strategy? Is it direct? Is it going through strategic key partnerships? How are you actually going out and taking it to customers?
So a little bit of both. We have an amazing head of partnerships on our team that will go out and comes to a lot of the conferences with me, will call on different customers, and just really is like boots on the ground and doing everything to meet as many people as possible. And then we do have a strategic partner that we're working with on some customers. So I think it's going to be a nice mix of both. We look at it from a couple different ways. Sometimes it's who you know, and sometimes it's what you know. So combining those two things together, I think, are going to be pretty critical to our success.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of when you're talking to customers, because obviously a lot of the customers that you're probably talking to and the partners, they're probably using other GPU cloud providers potentially. What is your USP that actually makes you arguably better or an alternative, compelling solution to an aggregator or another sort of GPU cloud provider, for example?
So I think a lot of people are starting to see that AMD is really at the table now. I know for a long time, all anybody was talking about was NVIDIA, and they were first really to market at scale. So I think that people are starting to look at what AMD is doing because AMD's always been such a big player in the tech space. And seeing what they're bringing out, we're on the iteration of the MI325X. This summer, we're going to get the MI355X, and people are starting to hear the technical details on that. And I think they're starting to say, well, okay, well, this option's pretty good as well. So AMD, I think you're going to see them come to the table as a pretty key runner in the space. I really think that the tech is going to speak for itself, and they have a pretty deep engineering team that has really helped customers if they are using another provider to be able to move all of their data over to the AMD side.
Okay, and in terms of obviously when you're looking at actually the compelling reasons, so is it down to price? Is it down to actually just the performance of the tech? I think it was, when was I speaking to John over at Hot Isle, John Stevens? I think it was the support contracts that sort of came with it. They were also really sort of strong. Is that the primary sort of benefits for somebody looking at an alternative to NVIDIA, for example?
So I think it's going to be a combination of things. One, yes, customers are going to be price driven. Some customers are not going to know if they're running on an MI 300 versus a 355. They don't need all of the performance of, say, maybe the latest and greatest tech. So those customers are price driven. Then you have customers who are maybe building a model or doing something that's going to be a little more intensive. They would care more about the actual device that they're running on. But I also think that they take into account the overall security. What is your network security like? What is, all of the boxes have to be checked. What is your uptime looking like? What is your overall offering to the market? Those service contracts are huge. What can you guarantee to that customer, and what can you provide except just the bare metal? Because when it comes down to it, if you're looking bare metal to bare metal and you're comparing, say, like the NVIDIA offering versus the AMD offering, if it's bare metal and they're comparable devices, I don't think a customer is really going to notice the difference. It's, in some devices, it's the additional offering you bring with it. It's the additional way to say, this is what makes us different. This is the service we can provide you on top of just that bare metal solution.
Absolutely. And then the other thing being is obviously the target audiences, right? And the customer base. So I think when you look at things like promotion and marketing and getting your name out there, a lot of it, I think some people say in the US it's more about brand and it's about going with the right sort of potential partner. In Europe, it's very much around sustainability, and that's a really big thing, at the moment. And then particularly with things like sovereignty as well, they tend to go hand in hand. What are the sort of target market sort of customer base that you're going to go after? Is it going to be more US clientele, or are you looking at worldwide?
I don't think we've really settled on that yet. I know we have some ongoing projects with some higher ed folks that we are going to be producing a white paper on very soon. They are currently running on AMD devices, building a model, and I think higher ed, you're going to see a bigger drive to do some different things with AI. I've seen a lot more universities coming out with degree programs and tracks that are more focused to machine learning AI, which I think is amazing because they're adapting their engineering tracks to be more relevant to what's going on today in the world.
Absolutely. So that really will. So if you're going down that sort of route, and again, you say you're open to it at the moment, and if you're going through the partner route, then again, it's where the demand comes from as well. So that's the main thing. So in terms of obviously the future, so you're clearly busy in the next 12, 24 months. Lots are going on. Where do you see the industry sort of evolving? Have you got any sort of thoughts on that? Because I think one of the things that people are talking to us now, I think I saw something, there's 125 GPU neo cloud providers out there at the moment. Some are going to be acquired, some are going to get swallowed up for sure, some are going to do the acquiring. Where do you see the sort of industry going at the moment? Because I'm sure it will evolve, but is it towards inferencing, for example? I'll get your take.
It's going to evolve quickly because I think you're going to see the growth of cloud providers, like you're saying, and they're going to support people building both their large language models and pretty heavy on inference. So I think as a whole, you're going to start to see businesses saying they really want to lean in on AI as they start to trust it. I attended a conference earlier this year, and they said the biggest, I think, hurdle for AI right now is trust. You have to build that trust because there are still people out there that think that AI is like robots and, going to take over everything, taking our jobs. But really, I think we build that trust. We show people that AI is regulated sensibly and that AI can be used as a companion. It helps you to work smarter, not harder, and it helps you to do your job more efficiently. I think that as we see that trust in AI grow, that's where we see the growth. That's where we see it evolving. And I think that makes the adoption of AI a little easier. You're starting to see little companions show up in different, software that you use. And I think that that's just people kind of testing the waters and saying, okay, we can use AI in this, we can use AI in that. And then people don't really realize all of the data that AI is gathering and learning as we go through this process. And I think it's just going to continue to evolve and become more efficient and just become something that's not so scary, but just kind of existing in the background and helping us do things every day just a little easier.
It's I think it's definitely a fascinating space to watch, and you're right. It is going to evolve, and I think the point is that you guys have got to evolve and adapt pretty quickly to maintain with the pace, isn't it? Well, look, this has been brilliant. I know this is quite a pivotal time for you guys at the moment with a lot going on. So I think really we're going to have to be talking again at some point just to talk about what the future looks like once you can start revealing more. I think hopefully people that are listening now, if they weren't already aware of Aligned, that they certainly are today. And we're keen to really keep on and getting the eyeballs on the business as the business evolves and grows. So I'm going to call you back, hopefully, in about 12 months.
That sounds great. I think the conversation will be totally different at that point, and the things ongoing will be so much more interesting. I think it's interesting now, but I think to see the industry in 12 months, I don't even think we can really put our finger on exactly where it's going to be, and I think that's probably the coolest part of it.
It's just going to keep on moving. It's fast, and I think, with, geopolitical things going on, with the different regions that are expanding, I think, it's just watching, organisations like yourself adapt to it and, adapt to it quickly. So I'll be asking that question again in a year.
Sounds awesome.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time. All the best.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I truly hope you got to take away something valuable. This episode was brought to you by Asobi. I'm the founder and managing director, and it's our goal to connect the very best talent and the most exciting scale-ups in AI, ML, and the DC space. If you're looking for more practical advice or just some inspiration from those that have been there and done it, stay with us. We're going to be releasing new episodes every week, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow Asobi on LinkedIn so you don't miss a thing.